What's up, everybody? Noble Comics here to ask, could Superman take on the entire Green Lantern Corps and win? Here's the scenario. Superman, in his many adventures over the universe, has been infected with a virus that is causing him to slowly lose control of himself. His mind is weakening, and soon he will be this total bloodlusted monster with no control, no morals, and will not be holding back at all. And seeing this pending threat to the universe, the Guardians of the Universe here in Oa make a declaration that Superman is a threat that needs to be handled before it gets too bad. So they make the declaration that all Green Lanterns are called to come contain Superman and bring him back to Oa as a prisoner, or to kill him in the process. Could Superman win? Could he defeat the Green Lantern Corps? Or would he be defeated and taken in as a prisoner? Well, I think that this is an interesting question, and it is something that we've seen glimpses of in the comics before. I do want to say from the offset that Superman is obviously more powerful than any single Green Lantern theoretically, right? We know Superman's speed, strength, durability is all way higher than, Hal Jordan typically, as he's shown. I don't think there's ever been an instance where Superman 1v1s a Green Lantern and loses. Though that is all dependent on the wielder themselves, because theoretically, any single Green Lantern has the power to defeat Superman. It all depends on their willpower. However, the vast majority obviously are nowhere near that power level. And so, over the years and decades, we've seen Superman shattering Green Lantern constructs, taking on multiple Green Lanterns at once, and ultimately not being able to be contained by any single Lantern, definitely. And we've seen in other comics, more directly, Superman taking on groups of Lanterns. For example, the Injustice Superman fights the entire Green Lantern Corps, and he is able to defeat them. Though in that comic, it is a little different because he becomes a Yellow Lantern, so he does get a bit of a boost there. Also, in the Superman Red Sun animated movie, we see Superman fight multiple Green Lantern at once. I think it's like 20 or 25 of them, and he is absolutely clobbering them. Though in the end, they too, using the combined power of all their rings, are able to contain him in the end. But both of those scenarios I just gave you don't really matter because both those are non-canon. Both Injustice Superman and the Red Sun stuff, that's not canon to current Superman or current Green Lantern. So looking at some of the actual current canon versions, this one I cannot find. I know I've heard Ethan Van Sciver, who was the artist on this comic, talk about this comic that he did where the Lanterns are trying to protect Earth from Superman. All of the Lanterns are covering the entire Earth with their rings so the sky is green. And then Superman approaches and he breaks through, right? The sky turns blue again, letting everybody know Superman has broken through the barrier. I cannot find this scan anywhere. If you know where this is, you know what comic I'm talking about, please let me know. But we do know an angry Superman has broken through many Lanterns constructs at once. Not to mention Superboy Prime, for example, who is much more powerful than a standard Superman. But Superboy Prime took out multiple Green Lanterns at once with ease, no problem, absolutely tearing them apart. But Superboy Prime was just kind of on another level in general, so that's not exactly the best metric. But Superboy Prime did fight Ion. Now, Ion is the living embodiment of will on the emotional power spectrum, right? That is the living embodiment of, like, the Green Lantern ring. An extremely powerful being. And the way it typically works is this being inhabits a body and then boosts that person's power. We saw, for example, Kyle Rayner be Ion. He was the first one. That was sort of his new identity for a while. And Kyle Rayner Ion was like omnipotent almost. He could be everywhere at once. His power was extremely high. And he was nigh unstoppable. But this Ion that fights Superboy Prime is Sodom Yat. And he is not nearly as powerful. He's much more of a brawler. He's much less creative than Kyle Rayner, which probably gave him an edge. And when he fights Superboy Prime, he does okay. He gets trashed in the end, but he is one of the few people who was actually able to inflict some damage on Superboy Prime during this fight. And again, that sort of ties back to the other, the general thing I was talking about, that the power level of a Green Lantern depends on them to a degree, right? One Ion, being Kyle Rayner, was way more powerful than another Ion, being Sodom Yad, even though the entity itself is extremely powerful and should theoretically be able to defeat somebody like Superman. It does depend on the wielder. And Green Lantern powers in general seem to be sort of user dependent, because we think they can create constructs and shoot lasers, but it's also, being able to synthesize material, phase through walls, go invisible, different types of energy matter manipulation. All of that is part of the ring. It's the most powerful weapon in the universe, but for the most part, most lanterns don't use it like that. They just use it to create constructs and shoot lasers and fight that way. Which is why I think most would probably get stomped by Superman. But there are extreme heavy hitters like Ion that would definitely get him a problem. Other heavy hitters would be Hal Jordan, for example, probably the most popular, probably the most powerful Green Lantern there is out there, and he can become a pure willpower being as well, the most powerful Lantern out there. And in this form, he's extremely powerful. He's able to fight Larfleeze, one of the most powerful Lantern wielders, though he is an orange Lantern. He's able to fight Kronos, a corrupted, evil guardian of the universe, who's extremely powerful. And we've seen his constructs be able to encompass the entire planet and do other impressive things like that before. Though, again, we've never seen Hal Jordan win a 1v1 against Superman definitively. But there's also John Stewart, who's another very popular Green Lantern, though he joined the Indigo Lantern League, and that's sort of been his thing for the most part. But he is also extremely powerful. We've seen him hold the entire Earth together as it was being destroyed using his ring. He's created an entire solar system using his ring, so he's extremely powerful as well. And there's also Mogo, the living planet that is a Green Lantern. And in that Injustice comic, Mogo was able to annihilate a great number of the Sinestro Corps with a single blast due to how massive and powerful he is. He's definitely one of the more powerful Lanterns out there, but we did see John Stewart, when he was in his Black Lantern form, essentially one-shot Mogo, so he's not quite on their same level. The last heavy hitter Superman have to worry about is the OG, the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. Now, this Lantern is different from all the others. He doesn't have a power battery like all the others. He doesn't have the same weaknesses as all the others. For example, Alan Scott's Lantern, his weakness is wood. So his power ring can't affect things that are made of wood. But his power ring is different because, again, it's not exactly like the other ones. It's actually power from something called the Star Heart, which is a magical item created by the Guardians of the Universe. A typical Green Lantern ring can't manipulate magical items, but this one is a magical item, and it can, and it is very powerful. We've seen Alan Scott do some very impressive things over the years, from the Kingdom Come storyline to other Justice Society of America storylines. Alan Scott is extremely powerful on his own, one of the most powerful, including all of his Star Heart abilities. And finally, something that Superman would have to look out for too is the fact that Lanterns can synthesize kryptonite. We've seen this happen a couple times. We've seen Hal Jordan do it to Superman, where he was synthesizing a great amount of kryptonite that seemed to be killing him. We've seen Kyle Rayner do it as well, but this time Superman seemed to resist it more. And it seems that the effectiveness of the kryptonite is tied to, again, the own wielder's willpower, how strong they want that effect to be, which ties to the whole theme of each Lantern's ability to compete with someone like Superman is dependent on them. They could be one shot by him easily, they could rival or potentially beat him in a one-on-one. It is kind of up to them and their own willpower. So all of that said, what are we looking at if Superman were to fight the entire Green Lantern Corps? They're coming for him. He's not going to go quietly. He has a lot of work to do. His mind is already altered, so he's not going to be holding back necessarily. What would happen? Well, I think initially Superman just blitzes a lot of them and could probably wipe out a good number of the Corps right off the bat. Like I said, the vast majority of them are not going to be anywhere near Superman's power. Their constructs on their own are going to be extremely weak. It would take dozens of them to make a construct that's on the same power level as like one Hal Jordan construct like that we see in the comics. So I think Superman would be able to completely wash a good number of them just right from the start. And those that are left over will just pretty much be playing support for the main heavy hitters. Because that's what it really comes down to, is could Superman beat John Stewart and Hal Jordan and Kal Rayner and Sodomyat Ion and Mogo all at the same time, and Alan Scott as well. And that's, I think, where it gets tough, because Superman could beat any one of these people one-on-one, probably. I feel like Hal Jordan would probably be the point guy here, fighting Superman directly, and Hal Jordan can hang with Superman for a little bit, right? So I think he could definitely compete, especially in his pure willpower form. He would be able to hang in there. Again, Superman is not holding back, so I think a lot of his constructs can be taking heavy damage. John Stewart will be there as well to support him, to reinforce his constructs and to help him fight. Kal Rayner will be helping as well, and Ion will provide very needed backup and support as well, being able to throw some heavy punches at Superman, because again, Sodomyat Ion was able to tank some hits and deal some damage to Superboy Prime. He could definitely fight Superman directly. And there's probably an argument that could be made that he could beat Superman directly, but he would be helping as well. I think Mogo would be providing some giant, much-needed blasts to keep Superman disoriented and off his feet. Though, if necessary, I think Superman could blitz Mogo and probably shatter him in like a single punch if he needed to. But then we got Alan Scott. And Alan Scott was able to restrain the likes of Magog, who was like a Superman killing machine, and was able to restrain him. Not to mention, again, that his abilities are magic-based, and Superman is vulnerable to magic. So I think that Alan Scott, again, especially if he's assisted by some of these other Lanterns, could probably contain Superman like we saw in that Red Sun animated movie. And I don't think he would be able to break out, because we have seen Hal Jordan trap Superman in a cage before, and his construct was boosted by magic, and Superman was unable to break out. So I think realistically, Ion and Hal Jordan are wailing on Superman, or at least trying not to get killed by Superman and trying to fight back. John Stewart is assisting both of them. Mogo is putting extra pressure on Superman with his massive Green Lantern blasts, and Alan Scott is using his magical abilities to contain Superman as much as he can. And Kal Rayner's here too, helping out. Like I said, if Kal Rayner was Ion in this scenario, then he could maybe just take Superman by himself. That version was extremely powerful, but he hasn't been Ion in some time, so I don't know if that's exactly fair. But all in all, say Alan Scott manages to contain him. Superman cannot break out of these magical lantern constructs. You've got, say, Kal Rayner, you've got Hal Jordan, you've got John Stewart synthesizing kryptonite around him to weaken him. Ion is beating down on him. I do think that they would be able to take him. And especially, again, if you have the rest of the core that's not been obliterated, helping out as well, just keeping him distracted or helping reinforce constructs, I do think they would win. Now, I think that Superman probably can win. I think his stats are superior overall. I think he's faster, he's stronger, he's more durable. His laser vision could probably wipe out, dozens of them at once. He is way more powerful than any Lantern. And I think if he took the right route, like if in the very beginning he blitzes, say, Alan Scott and kills him, maybe does the same to Ion or in some other ways able to incapacitate him, then his odds get way better at winning. But I think with these heavy hitters, I don't see Superman winning a majority of the time. I think Superman loses this fight probably like 8 out of 10 times, even though, again, we've seen other versions of him do it in the comics. Those were all non-canon, and I don't think reflect how that fight would actually go. And that's not to downplay the savage, bloodlusted Superman I know is extremely powerful, universal threat. But I feel like the Lanterns maybe are a bit underrated. So I don't want to downplay them either. I do think that this team could take on a crazed Superman and win. If Batman can do it in the Scott Snyder comics, these Green Lanterns can definitely do it. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who do you think would win? I'll see you in the next video. Take care.